how can companies build a culture based on inclusivity, and how can they keep on dealing with the ongoing COVID-19 pandemic with all of the different variants that we're seeing coming up? So joining me today is Newell Brand's CEO, Ravi Saligram. Ravi, thank you for joining Coffee with Katherine. And I wanted to start with the most important question to me, which is, we're seeing both a racial divide in America, but also this ongoing COVID-19 divide between unvaccinated and vaccinated Americans. And to me, I'm wondering, how can these events and ongoing issues impact company cultures?
Yeah, Katherine, good morning to you, and thank you for having me on your show again. It's always a pleasure. I thought sometime in June, July, that the worst was over, and was beginning to feel a little lighthearted. But now with the Delta variant raging on, I think it says we just have to be watchful again. From our part, we're continuing to encourage our employees to get vaccinated, and at our factories, we're providing incentives to our hourly employees. We've reinstated wearing masks in the offices when people are there, even if they're vaccinated, because I think employee safety becomes a big part, and safety is obviously one of the most important aspects of our culture. So I think with COVID, really the battle is about just continuing to get people vaccinated and hope that we get to herd immunity. In terms of the racial justice issue, Katherine, clearly I think the George Floyd assassination was a real wake-up call for America. And at our company, we've striven to really embrace our humanity. I've talked to our employees about really creating a just America. And while we can't really influence what happens outside of our offices and factories, what we can do is what we control, which is our environment. And where we create a real sense of belonging, a sense where people, no matter whether they're black, brown, white, or whatever religions they follow, that they have a sense of belonging, that they have a sense that they can be authentic and be themselves. I think bringing their whole self to work is such an important aspect. And this can't just be words. One has to work at it. I can hardly say that we've achieved a great state of nirvana, because it's a journey. But I've got to tell you, compared to a lot of other places, we're making a tremendous effort on it, and top-down, bottom-up, sideways. And we've created these employee resource groups, which I think are a terrific way for people who can really create allies and build people across different ethnicities. So we've got an ERG called Beacon, which is for our African American employees. We've got an LGBTQ group called Open. So we've got a lot of groups, and we welcome people who are not necessarily LGBTQ to come in. We've also put our leaders, our top leaders, as executive sponsors of these groups. So I think all of this is going to be a journey. Key to it is tolerance. Key to it is showing your heart and humanity. Key to it is to embrace the concept that everyone needs to have opportunity, and that the American dream is not just for a few, but for all of us.
I like that you said that you've reached nirvana here, and that you're putting actions where your words are, because the last time that we did speak, we spoke off camera about how your initiatives at Newell. So I want to focus a little bit on that, because you guys, let's put you as the poster child right now, just based on your actions, because a lot of companies that I talk to, and quite honestly, even my company, one of the initiatives is the HR training programs for diversity. And those are great, and they're very needed. But there's more than just a training program that you take on your laptop. There needs to be action from top level down. As my mom always says, the fish always rots from the head, right? So for corporate America, what would you suggest is the first step to really building inclusivity at a workplace?
Yeah, Katherine, that's a great question. And this journey is going to be a marathon, not a sprint. But the starting point is awareness and introspection, and really a quantitative look at where are you in the company. We've just completed doing a very extensive survey on diversity, inclusion, and belonging with a leading supplier who specializes in this. And so today they're, in fact, right after this meeting, I'm going through one of their final presentations. And so it really, you get a look at where are you, because at the top you may think, okay, everything is hunky-dory, but it isn't, because you've got to go through every level of the organization. And it is not just about saying, hey, it is about one minority or another minority. The majority is equally important, because you can't have the majority of people, white Americans, especially males, to feel that they're left out and that they have no one or they have no affinity. We need everyone to build bridges to each other. So this survey has been very helpful for us. And the survey has helped us saying, hey, how people view our initiatives in the factory level is very different from the office level, so that we really convey that the initiatives we are taking are not just for the professional employees, but equally for our hourly employees, because they are our front line. They're our frontline heroes who are so essential to getting and making our goods. So this survey has helped us see, hey, we're first having an awareness. And it goes across different things. It's about how do people perceive about promotions. Do they feel it's just and equitable? And pay parity. It's about, hey, can their voices be heard and can they express opinions freely versus being seen as, if I'm critical, I'm seen as a troublemaker. We don't want that. We want people to be able to constructively give their opinions so that we can get better. So I think this is going to be a continuous improvement journey, but you've got to have a roadmap. And for us, we took several steps. The first step was about awareness and understanding. And second, it was about really creating a feeling of let's have these courageous conversations between each other to put things on the table, and so that there is a greater level of tolerance and sensitivity. The third was about modeling behaviors at the top. So our board today, half of our board are women or minorities. And that is a great example. We recruited an African American director who's been amazing. And so we have a Hispanic director. I'm of Indian origin. We've got two women. So I think that starts at the very board level. At the management level, as I've said before, 4 of my business unit CEOs out of 8 are women. And my head of talent management, a very critical job, is an African American female. So when you have people at the top, people say, okay, there isn't a glass ceiling or something that I can't break, because when they see that, they say there is hope. Because look, what do employees want ultimately when they work for a company? Other than pay and benefits and all of that, what they want to see is, can they fulfill their potential? Can they make their dreams come true? And in companies where they can start seeing and aspiring and say, wow, I too can be that, then I think it helps a lot. And then you've got to systematically work it level by level and not just assume just because you got it right at the top. Recruiting becomes very important. So we're spending a lot of time with our recruiters saying, and we've created diversity policies now, that when we go externally to hire, that you absolutely have to have legitimate, absolutely viable candidates who are people of color, who are minorities, who are women, so that we then enhance the pool. So I think all of these are steps, Katherine, that we're taking, but it's going to be a marathon. It's not something you do overnight, and you've got to keep checking back to see how much improvement are you making. We publicly declared our diversity statistics in our sustainability report. Why did we do that? Because to hold ourselves accountable, to say we're going to make progress. And a lot of the feedback I'm getting from employees is that we're making progress. But one has to be very careful to just think, because there are a lot of people sometimes who say, gee, how come you only talk about minorities? So you've got to pull the majority, the minority, create a harmonious whole, and point them to the noble purpose of your company. And the more you do that and bring everyone together, because we may not be able to change America or the world, but sure, we can really make Newell a better place to work.
So you mentioned that you've gotten positive feedback from employees, and I'm also curious, what kind of critical feedback have you gotten from them? And with that being said, I'm also wondering if you think that companies across the board, especially public companies, should be releasing diversity statistics almost maybe in an earnings report kind of style, where it's just another number on that page.
Yeah, I think let me go to your first one. Look, we will, we're companies that are microcosm, and we're talking about the United States here, though we're a global company. But let's stick to the U.S. for a moment. We're a microcosm of America, right? So you'll have different attitudes and behaviors. You've got to work first on the behaviors before you go about changing attitudes. If we can get civil behavior that's tolerant, that's compassionate, then that's a big victory. We will get, occasionally I get comments saying, hey, why are we bringing, when we talk about racial justice, some people see that as bringing politics into the workplace. I don't, because to me that is about humanity. And it is about creating an equal opportunity company where employees can fulfill their potential. But sometimes some employees see that. But I'm very pleased that I think the majority of our employees believe in this, which is why we have a flourishing culture and the great business results we've been able to put out. I think in the first half, our sales are up 23%. First quarter, our EPS almost tripled. Second quarter, almost doubled. So I think that's only happening because we have a winning culture. So I think the majority of our employees see the North Star. They believe in teamwork. They believe in trust. And therefore, they believe this is an important component of it. Yes, you will get a few. And I think the important thing is not to dismiss it or just to say, oh, you'll have some complainers, but to try and explain why this is important, why it's good business. Why is it that it is important to be inclusive? Because when you're inclusive and when you have a diverse set of employees and different lenses, it drives innovation. To me, diverse thinking is at the root of driving innovation. And our consumers, our customers, they are of diverse backgrounds. So if you are going to meaningfully have a dialogue with your consumers and your customers, you need to be able to empathize with them and feel it within your DNA. So I think our employees get that. Yes, you'll have an occasional person who will write a nasty note, but the majority of our employees believe in this noble purpose, how we're going forward, which is why we're getting the results. Your other question, Katherine, about, hey, should everyone publish? Look, to me, I just felt, given the stage we were in and the commitment we were making, it was important for us to put a sustainability report. I think the more you try to regulate these things versus it being organic, I think it becomes a problem. You really need this to be organic within the company, and the company and its leadership should really want to do it because they believe it's right. If you're kind of mandated, that becomes tough. But look, the important thing is, Katherine, you and I know ESG is so important these days. Investors really are holding boards and companies accountable for ESG. So much so that we changed the names both at the board that I serve on externally as well as our own board at Newell. We've changed the Comp Committee name to Compensation and Human Capital Committee. We've changed the Governance Committee to Governance and Corporate Responsibility. And they may seem symbolic, but it's really every meeting in our board meetings, both at the committee level and at the board level, we talk about ESG. And I think you're seeing that. I think why is that important? Because ultimately it comes down to this. If you want to drive shareholder value is inextricably linked to stakeholder value. and your stakeholders, consumers, customers, employees, communities. You've got to bring them all harmoniously together to win in the marketplace. When you do that, you drive shareholder value. So because of that linkage, ESG to me is common sense, because it's the key to driving shareholder value, because you're getting all your stakeholders pointed in the right direction.
So I want to continue this conversation, but I want to change the issue that we're talking about, and I want to focus in on COVID now, because when we talk about company culture and really building that, and also talk about making something that could be considered humanitarian political, the first thing that comes to my mind in this day and age is COVID-19 and whether or not we should be masking or requiring vaccinations. And we're starting to see more companies require vaccinations. I'm wondering if that would be on the table for Newell.
Well, at this point, we're still evaluating that, Katherine, and we feel strong encouragement is continuing to pay dividends for us. We'll see, and once I think these vaccines are permanently authorized, we may see how that evolves. For now, we're strongly encouraging it, but the masking, we've definitely reinstated it as per the CDC guidelines. But let me just talk about COVID-19 for a second and its impact on the culture. In some ways, Katherine, we were in a turnaround. And when COVID-19 started, I just started in the company October 2019. We were right in the midst of the turnaround, and then COVID-19 hit in March. So it's interesting because how we pivoted as a leadership team to put focus on three critical priorities: on number one, employee safety; number two, on keeping our factories running where possible and where mandates allowed it as essential, so that we could provide products to our customers and consumers; and three, ensure liquidity and the financial viability of the company. But the number one thing was about safety, because our whole mantra in terms of our culture is about people first. When we did that, and we were one of the first to shut down our offices because we felt it would be better to go virtual. And we were going to reopen in mid-September, at least 2-3 days a week, but we've now postponed it to October, and we'll see if we need to postpone it further, because the employee safety is so critical. I think employees have seen that. They've also seen all the work we did before COVID hit about that employee first, people first mantra and culture, and that our actions and words matched. That has helped really. Adversity has brought out the best in our people, and I'm so proud of them. And our factory employees, our frontline heroes, they've really risen to the challenge, and because they've had to continue to work, but we've been so diligent about making our factories safe. We started putting in we changed how our lines were laid out. We created a lot of emphasis en masse and explaining to our employees why this was important, providing these incentives to get vaccinated, providing COVID testing wherever needed and as needed. We've also done that in our offices whenever people come in or we have meetings, even though there are few. I think that has really helped galvanize our people, and it's actually been and not that I really want COVID to end, but I think for us it's been a great fillip, because this adversity has created such a bonding between our employees. I'm so proud of them.
One of the things that we're really seeing in the economy right now is kind of the worker shortage in so many places. I mean, I'm in Austin, Texas, and you can go to any storefront and you're going to see the now hiring kind of sign. So I'm wondering how important safety and culture, as we've been talking about it, but safety is to attracting these employees.
There's no question that there is a labor shortage right now, Katherine, and we feel that in our factories. It's because today you're not just competing with other manufacturing companies or distribution warehouses. You're competing now with retailers, with restaurants. Everyone is looking for employees. And I think part of it was the stimulus help people to be able to get by. And so that has created right now a bit of a shortage. So what we're doing is continuing to work on making our places attractive to work, showing not only being very competitive on wages, but we're going the extra efforts on job fair, about our employee brand and about our humanity, about our real push on diversity and inclusion, all aspects, and we have exciting products. And so our frontline employees know they make a difference in people's lives because our products ultimately bring peace of mind, joy, moments of joy. So when you're working on a car seat, when you're working on a stroller, when you're working on a Calphalon pan or a Sharpie pen, you know that, and getting back to schools has been so important. So there's meaning for people in terms of that they're making a difference. And we want every employee at Newell to feel that they make a difference in the big picture. And I think that is helping us, but also our management. Our head of our home fragrance business in Yankee Candle, she and her management team went and worked in the factories with the labor shortages to say, hey, there's no division of, there's no status here. My head of outdoors took his whole team to his warehouses to unload containers, and that is showing, hey, we're an egalitarian company, that we're not about hierarchies, that we're all in it together. And so we're working that to really say this is a great place to work, not just today, but tomorrow, because we're continuing to be all about work in progress and continuous improvement. So that attracts people, but nevertheless, the labor shortage is definitely a challenge that we are continuing to work through.
You mentioned competitive wages, and obviously we can all sit here and agree that people should be paid a livable wage, and perhaps even over that, because we've seen, as you noted, the stimulus really helping thousands of Americans not only get out of debt, but improve their living situations. However, when we talk about that, the one thing that we don't necessarily engage with is the fact that there is a price to be paid, literally, and that price has to be paid by your company. Do you think that maybe down the line, as we increase wages per worker, per hourly worker, per salaried worker, that could impact Newell negatively?
I think obviously inflation is something that all companies are dealing with in different ways, whether it's wage increases, whether it is raw materials. Some of these are going to be transitory, like the raw materials and stuff. We do think that it'll peak sometime and this year and start waning off. The key for us, Katherine, is, hey, we have to be competitive, and but I think the important thing is we've put a huge effort on productivity in our factories, in our labs, making sure that we're removing waste, making sure we're becoming better and better at doing what we do. We're introducing automation, a lot of cobots, like in our Yankee Candle warehouse in Ohio. We've got cobots. These are collaborative robots that are working in tandem with our employees, because there's a lot of jobs that are very routine and very dull and repetitive. So this allows our factory employees to get to jobs which are more challenging, so the cobots can do the routine jobs. That is helping as well with the productivity. So I think any increases we're having in inflation, we're offsetting through productivity increases. Last year, we got to almost 4% of COGS, which is quite best in class. And we're doing the same in terms of this year. So productivity, automation, modernizing our factories, becoming more efficient, looking at raw materials and saying, hey, do we have the right raw materials to really, are they the most efficient? how do we engineer products so they're still amazing values and high quality, but removing waste. So that's how we're countering it, because I think it's very important for us to be competitive in the marketplace and pay our people the right appropriate market price.
Which leads me to wonder if we're going to start seeing a change in attitude from companies when it comes to whether or not they purchase that TV ad, or if they choose to partner with an Instagram or TikTok or YouTube influencer instead, and if that's how brands like the ones that Newell has in your portfolio are now reaching audiences.
That's a great question, Katherine. For us, the super majority of our media dollars are all spent on e-commerce and electronic media as opposed to TV. We spend a lot of our dollars going to social media in terms of influencers. So because we feel that's, and with the rise, a lot of our consumers are really both millennials, Gen X, and coming into the fold are Gen Zs. And so that's where a lot of our dollars go. We will do occasionally some TV advertising, and particularly some brands which like DirecTV, like our Food Saver brand, which responds very well to that and reaches the right audiences for that on DirecTV. So, but for us, that's why, Katherine, 22% of our global sales, we're close to a $10 billion company, 21% of our global sales is online. And that's because we're really going where the consumers are going, and that's why our commitment to omni-channel, 360-degree view of the consumer, and provide the greatest experiences for our brands, for the consumer, no matter where they shop, when they shop, how they shop, be omnipresent, and make sure that you're touching them and not have inconsistent experiences. So I think today's world, it's so interconnected. People like our baby business, most of the stuff starts online because moms are getting, especially first-time moms, are getting educated online. Then they may go look at the store and actually look at things in the store, and they may buy it there, or they may go back and buy it online, deliver to the house, or pick up at curbside. So I think in today's omni-channel world, we're big believers in spending a lot on search, spending a lot on social media, and creating brand relevancy. That organic search, we're always at the top of the list.
Throughout this entire conversation, which I appreciate you helping me base it on the workplace, because I feel like this is just something that it's very special to be able to talk to a CEO about not only inclusivity in the workplace, but also just how companies can make it better for employees. But there's one thing that we haven't hit on yet, and that's burnout. We're seeing, like I just saw an Indeed study where 52% of respondents said that they're more burnt out prior to the 43% that had been surveyed prior to COVID-19. With this kind of burnout, when you're looking at a C-suite level, how can you give employees that break that they might need? And also, how do you, as a CEO, prevent burnout?
So I think that's a great question, and it is, you have to be very empathetic about this. I keep telling our employees, look, which may sound strange, I'm a workaholic, but still I want people to know that we work to live, we don't live to work, because ultimately work is all about providing for your family, having a great life. And I don't want to use sort of hackneyed terms like work-life balance, but really about purpose. But if you enjoy your work and you really get moments of joy, just like for our consumers with our brand, but if our employees can feel that is some of the best parts of their day, and if it goes well, then they can also have a great time with their families. And making sure, so some of the things we're doing, Katherine, especially when you're working out of the home for our professional employees, right? It is not easy because sometimes, because you're working, managers sometimes say, hey, people have to work all the time. So we are constantly encouraging, make sure you don't call people during lunchtime, because the same superwoman executive may also be a mom who's trying to provide lunch. I'm not saying dads don't, but so be a little sensitive to that. Don't call people at 8 o'clock at night and say, hey, let's have a meeting. Now, sometimes you may need to. Also be very mindful about weekends. And so I think it is having that compassion, I think is very important, so that life doesn't seem like 24 hours of work. The second is really showing, I think there's a lot of, I think mental health right now is so important, and to make sure the mental well-being, it's not just about COVID, it's not just about COVID, the physical stuff, but the feeling of insecurity about going out or getting COVID and all the fears that have an impact, because it has changed lives. So the only thing we can do as leaders is constantly work on showing our humanity and being more tolerant, and then recognizing that sometimes people will have off days, and be forgiving. And the most important thing we say is be careful of the emails you write. I check myself, because sometimes something will irritate me. I'll start dashing off an email, and then I'll say, Saligram, pause. Put the pause button, read what you said. Do you really, because you can come across as mean and nasty, even if you don't, because on the spur of the moment you reacted. So I think it is for our better angels to come out rather than the darkened demons inside us. And the more you show that, and then making sure we provide, hey, giving the extra holiday, giving that time off. If someone wants to go get a vaccination, give them the time. If they want to get tested, keep showing that you care. And the more you do that, and if people do, if they have to, at 3 o'clock, they have to go out and do something personal, let them do it, because your good employees will pay you back by working later. So having that trust with your employees, showing constant caring, and it has to come from the heart. You can't make this up. You can't fake it, because you can do it 1 or 2 times, but people will see through you. And they'll keep looking at your actions, and they'll keep looking, are you consistent? You said this the other day, but what are you saying today? And if you see that, and constantly working on showing that you truly love your employees, that every leader cares about their employees, and really that, I think, helps you. But there will be some fallout, and you have to be prepared for that. You have to do everything possible to make your place a better place, and also give them the help from a mental health standpoint in terms of counseling. And because if a close friend got COVID, or a family member, how do you work on that and help them? So we offer employee counseling, grief counseling. So I think mental health, every CEO, if there's one thing I'd say, hey, look, don't make this a stigma. Really understand this is a problem, and show your humanity about it. And as far as I'm concerned, look, for me, I get my energy from my family, my wife, my daughters, my brother, his family. For me, family energizes me like nothing else. My daughters, that's why, even though they have busy lives, they come visit me. So they're with me right now in Atlanta. That, more than anything, gives me the greatest joy in life, and really recharges me. And so I think that's what you've got to find, whatever it is within you, to find inner peace, because that prepares you the next day to go on and on. Because This is a marathon. You need to be resilient. You need to go to your reservoirs of energy and mental strength to keep moving forward, because someday COVID will end, but through that journey, you've got to find friends and family that are a great support system for you.
So glad to hear it. Ravi, thank you so much for joining us today. I really appreciate it.
Thank you. I enjoyed it, Katherine. Thank you very, very much, and hope you have a great week.
You too. Thank you.
Bye.